Hey guys, Chris here, and I'm a Ukrainian Canadian. Today is November 7th, 2024, and let's get to the news happening in the world, shall we? And this video is going to be really just focused on the US elections. It's going to be a very brief video. I want to talk about Trump and his victory. And is this really the end of the war, as he promised, within 24 hours? Because the clock is ticking, and I think that's been more than 24 hours, and we're still there. Ukraine is still fighting. But all jokes aside, I want to talk about the victory of Trump, what are the implications, and why I think things aren't as bad as they seem. And many people are already digging their graves, thinking that this is the end of the world, end of democracy. And although you guys know that Trump is not somebody that I, at the very least, respect because of the mountain of issues and, evident crimes that he has committed, but you can see that the Americans did not care about that. And that's a fact. You can tell me, oh no, we believe in democracy, we believe in fair play, but that's not a fact. Look, 72 million people so far have voted for him. Only 68 voted for Kamala Harris. So it clearly indicates that Americans were not preoccupied that much by all the scandals and allegations. Now, Trump won with a pretty big overwhelming victory. It's not just the presidency. He won the majority of the House and also Senate, meaning that basically Republicans have overwhelming majority everywhere, which is huge. And speaking of that, I think that this was not the scenario that Putin wanted, if we're speaking of Russia, because Putin was really betting on a divided, very tight race between Kamala and Trump, that, if Kamala would have won, then he was really hoping on a Trump base that would do pretty much the same thing like back in January 6th, 2021, bring chaos, division, and kind of a small little civil war would start brewing within the United States. That's what he was really hoping for, kind of playing both sides, saying that, I'm for Kamala, but then sometimes he would talk about Trump and how he might be a good candidate, right? Like you could see that the Russians were really trying to stir up both sides to make it look like they didn't care about who's going to win. And I think that was part of their strategy of really trying to create this tension and push the Americans towards the brink of a civil war. Thankfully, that didn't happen. Biden did concede, and Kamala did concede as well. They said that they're going to respect the decision of the Americans, and that, if that's the choice that they went with, they're going to respect it. Biden gave a phone call to Trump, invited him to have a discussion. So you can see that the Democrats are definitely interested in continuing much needed tradition of peaceful transition of power. So we're not going to be seeing any of this worst case scenario that everybody was expecting. So I think with that regard, we're seeing that it's kind of a good outcome for the Americans. Like we're not on the brink of some sort of huge tensions and possibly civil war. Like Trump won with overwhelming majority and people are accepting that. So that's a pretty big deal. Now, why did the Americans vote for Trump? And it was not related to abortion, not to Ukraine. It was at the very bottom of the list, not immigration. It was really about the economy. And it really indicates how the Democrats were lost because of that. They were withdrawn from reality. And, even people that were historically voting Democrats, Hispanics, Black people, different types of groups actually went with Trump this time, because they said that the Democratic Party was really withdrawn from reality, did not really tackle the issue of economy, of how life got really expensive, housing got expensive. It's a real problem everywhere in the first world. But in America, the economy is still the most important subject. And it's true that Harris did not play that card. They really focus more about the abortion and focus on women's vote. And that apparently, it didn't play out that well. And as a matter of fact, it's really about the economy. So that's the main reason why Trump won, even though you guys know that Trump isn't really bringing anything novel, or he's not an economist, and many are saying that his plan for the economy is actually going to make it worse down the line. I think the Americans just wanted somebody that was talking about the economy, acknowledged the fact that life was difficult in the last 4 years, and they went with him. It's simplistic, but that's a fact. You're seeing this. So that's that. And I want to go over some of the things, important, I guess, points why I don't think that a Trump presidency is as bad as it seems. Many are saying that this is going to be the end of Ukraine, that he's going to, just throw Ukraine under the bus. And although there's always a possibility, there's always a risk, because we know how Trump governs. He governs through tweets. If you guys remember from 2016 till 2022, Twitter was his main tool. He was tweeting his ideas, tweeting what his next policy would be, what he would do today. And that was a very volatile, eccentric way of governance. And I don't think Trump is going to change. And so we should be expecting a very volatile Trump that's going to change his mind, be very, as the main theme here is unpredictability. Everybody's saying this about Trump. He's just unpredictable. And it's true, right? He can change his mind in an instant. And that is problematic. However, we also need to understand who Trump is. And Trump wants to portray himself as a winner, as somebody that's going to get deals done, that he never loses. And if he wins, that he's going to take credit. And he always says, it's me. I did that, right? So I think that Trump, when he's going to come into office officially in January, he doesn't want to create an image of a loser. He wants to create an image of a winner. Abandoning Ukraine completely, if he says it's going to be in 24 hours, isn't going to create that image of a winner, right? Because it's not about, well, his base is going to say, oh yeah, we won because we're not funding Ukraine, but it's also about all the relationships that Trump is going to hurt in Europe, all across the world, by just giving up Ukraine like that and stopping, the financial assistance, weapons assistance. It's not going to happen, right? And I think that this was just part of his political game prior to the elections, trying to show that, he cares about the Americans. And look at the Democrats, they're just spending your money left and right, giving blank checks to the Ukraine government. And I think that he's going to come back to a more realistic position once he becomes president in January 2025. Another thing is, he had a meeting with Zelensky a month ago, and I rewatched it, and you could see that Trump genuinely, even though he was playing even the day before saying that Zelensky is the best deal maker because he gets billions of dollars for free from Biden, but the next day he met with Zelensky. I believe it was on September 27th when Zelensky came to present his victory plan to Washington and the Biden administration and other stakeholders. And during that meeting, after it, he said that he really respected Zelensky because he didn't take part in the impeachment process, while Zelensky, to be very fair, could have, right? Through all the pressure by the Democratic Party and other partners, there was a lot of pressure. And I remember that time of joining this impeachment process, right? And Zelensky refused. So that was really important as well. I think that at the very least, Trump sees Zelensky as somebody that can be trusted and not somebody that's going to just tiptoe around and say one thing but do something completely different. You're seeing that I think Trump has a certain amount of respect for Zelensky, and the very fact that he wanted to meet with him a month before the elections is really important. That they had a serious discussion at Trump Tower is really meaningful. Third point is, Trump is backed by one of the biggest donors that actually supported JD Vance, the vice president of Trump is Palantir. So this firm is an AI software firm that also produces software for the military. And also you can expect a lot of lobbying for the Republicans from the defense industry. Raytheon, Lockheed Martin, Northrop Grumman, a lot of these big billion-dollar companies, military companies, are definitely going to be heavily lobbying the Trump administration to tell him, we're backing you and you need to make sure that you make deals for us. And he's made several of them with Saudi Arabia, although, it was like a huge deal, but eventually it was much less by selling weapons to Saudi Arabia, to Israel, to other countries. Trump is definitely going to be lobbied to provide more support to Ukraine because it's good for business, right? So that is another point that is very important. Also, fourth point is there are many pro-Ukrainian Republicans and conservatives all around the world, not just Republicans, but, we can talk about Mike Pompeo from Britain, the previous Prime Minister Boris Johnson, who even flew a few months ago back in, I believe in March, remember, during that freeze period where Ukraine was not receiving any assistance, and he came to lobby and influence Trump to give the green light for Mike Johnson to put this bill into motion. Duda, the Prime Minister of Poland, even Yoon Suk Sul, if I remember correctly his name, the South Korean president, who is also conservative. There's going to be many, many countries that are conservative, right-wing. They're definitely going to play a vital role in influencing Trump to not stop the aid for Ukraine. It's not as easy as it looks, right? They have a lot to lose if he decides to cut off Ukraine, especially South Korea right now, with North Korea getting more technology from Russia, more resources, to build, of course, missiles, fighter jets, and even nuclear technologies. So South Korea could be one of the biggest, I think, influencers here in the next couple months. And they're also, speaking of South Korea, they're also talking about they're talking about considering actually providing Ukraine weapons in the near future, depending on how things develop in Ukraine. So you could see a big move by South Korea possibly in the next few months. And last, and it's not the very last one, there's many other points, but I think we'll finish it here through this kind of superficial analysis as to why I think Trump isn't going to be that bad, is NATO and other countries, and I think that's really important as well, that were once dependents of the US, right? We're looking at Europe, even Canada. Let's face it, Canada has been very dependent on US kind of military protection, are going to be forced to strengthen themselves. They don't have the choice. I mean, after 10 years, almost 10 years, it's time to stop pretending. And I really do believe that at this stage, you're having a lot of critical moments right now. Even in Germany, with Scholz right now, there's a huge, the coalition of Scholz is breaking apart because Scholz bet on the Democrats. And now, well, it's a Republican majority in the United States. And so many of these European countries now are realizing that they need to start counting on themselves. They kind of have to strengthen their military industries. And that's a good thing. Honestly, I do agree with Trump. If there's one thing that I agree with him is that Europe needs to start taking its security seriously, and they need to take care of it themselves more and more. Not to see the United States completely pull out, because I don't think Trump is going to do that. There's always a risk, of course, but there's too much at stake for him to just pull out of NATO completely. But he will definitely be a catalyst to this change within Europe. He is going to force European nations like France, Germany, the UK, many countries that were reluctant to invest a lot into their militaries in the past, to invest even more. Germany is already doing a good job. France, as well, is increasing, and many other countries throughout Europe. They're going to start really thinking about the next few years as to what their strategy to build up their military, what the strategy is going to be. So that is really the video for today, guys. I hope you enjoy my updates about the election. Let me know what you think as well about my points. Do you guys agree with it? I know it's kind of very superficial kind of analysis, but I think that there is a lot of truth behind that. And there is absolutely no way that Trump is going to finish the war in 24 hours in January when he comes into power. At the very least, I think we need to start waiting a little bit and see who Trump surrounds himself with. That's going to be very important. What is administration, how it's going to look like. And then we're going to have a better idea, likely probably end of December, early January. We're going to have a better idea as to what kind of strategy, what kind of road the Trump administration, this current Trump administration, is going to take with regards to Ukraine and many other situations. But I can see a lot of fear actually within Russia. If we're speaking of Russia as well, there was Putin that had a press conference today, and he congratulated Trump. He said that Trump behaved really strong, and he has a lot of respect for how he, survived this assassination attempt back in July. So you can see that even Putin understands that he needs to stroke Trump's ego to make him as a new friend, right? And I think that Putin is realizing that actually this situation is not as beneficial as it is, especially with the overwhelming Trump victory. It's not like it was a tie or very close to tie, and there could have been doubts as to who was the real winner, and it's Trump all the way this time. So it's I think that Russia, and especially in the media, has been really panicking heavily, saying that actually, after all, maybe Trump is not a good thing for us, because he could turn the tap on, completely pressure Russia through massive weapons deliveries to Ukraine, which is entirely possible as well. He could be influenced to such a point that if he wants to finish this war as quickly as possible, he won't have the choice but to provide Ukraine all the permission and all the weapons necessary for them to really make a huge, big boom in Russia. So the Russians have started reflecting a lot about that, a possibility that Trump could really give everything to Ukraine and even more, and that could seriously destabilize the Russians. But it's not the end, and Ukraine will continue fighting. And you guys can let me know in the comment section what you think about my points. If there's anything else that I've missed that I should have added. And yeah, I guess we'll have to see. But there's one last thing I want to mention is that this is entirely on the Democratic Party and also the way that Joe Biden has pursued his policy, I think, at the very least in the past year. De-escalation has been an utter disaster by the Biden administration. We're seeing that. And also the fact that Biden did not want to step down when it was clear that he should have stepped down even a year ago. He did not have the mental faculties and the abilities to continue for another term. It was clear. And the debate just made it obvious, right? And he had to step down at the very last moment, which did not give enough time for Harris to really create an image of herself, right? As a subject, as an independent, right? She was always seen as kind of the shadow of Biden. And that really played against her. And that she wasn't prepped well enough to really step into this role. At least in the campaign, there was not enough time to create an image of her and have her go out and really talk with people and, you know, bring her policies. They just saw her as kind of a shadow of Biden, kind of this quick fix to the issue of, you know, Biden stepping down. So that this loss is entirely in the Democratic Party. They deserve this loss. And for better or worse, now it's the Republicans who are in power of the United States. And for sure, it's not all good, right? Like, I'm trying to point out the positives, but it's not going to be all good. And one of the worst things I think about Trump is just his governance through tweets, his eccentric attitude, completely unpredictable governance, which is really going to impact the entire world. So it's going to be interesting to say the very least, but I think there's going to be a lot of good stuff as well for Ukraine in the near future, and it's not the end. So with all that, thank you for your support, and I will see you guys in the next one with a video about the map updates. Slava Ukraini!